Hello all, it's Ruthie with the Fiddler's Scroll, where I talk about the things that are worrying me because I'm beginning to realise I'm not a particularly original person, and if something's worrying me, it might be worrying someone else. So this is to hopefully lower the loneliness ratio in the world. Anyway, today the first thing I want to say is I want to say to my married friends, you know, the ones of you that got married in your late teens or your early 20s and you're now in the middle of raising children. I am so grateful for you guys, and I am so grateful you got married when you did and that you're now raising children, because look, I'm a little bit ashamed of what I'm going to say next, right? Because I know it's not right, but I feel like, because I'm easily muddled and I'm not a Bible scholar, I feel like the one thing I can do with this podcast that will be of some use is I can tell the truth. The truth is, you guys, if it wasn't for you who have managed to get married and you're raising children and you have these beautiful families, I think I might despair at the moment and think that maybe God is just done with letting people get married, and maybe I would think he'd had like a whole conversation with, oh, I don't know, maybe the angel Gabriel. Sometimes I sit around and imagine God having conversations with Gabriel. I don't know why. It's just one of those quirky things I do, I guess. Anyway, I can imagine, like, I think if it wasn't for you guys with your beautiful families, I feel like I would imagine God up there with Gabriel saying, you know what, I've given these humans thousands of years to kind of get it together and just kind of seek my face, and I'm just seeing more and more wickedness, and I'm done with it. And then maybe Gabriel, I would imagine Gabriel would be like, so, like, we're thinking another worldwide flood, and God would be like, no, kind of can't do that because I entered into a covenant in the book of Genesis that I wouldn't do that again. But what I'm thinking is I'll just stop people finding spouses and see how they like that. And I'm ashamed of this, you guys, because I know that what I just outlined as a little fantasy is in direct opposition to what's in the Bible. And realistically, I really should only need what's in the Bible. But sometimes, you guys, I find it very, very hard, and I need a little bit of help. So to those of you who got married young and you're currently raising children, I know the world can be very, very mean to you. I feel like hell has an internet connection, you guys. And I feel like its only desire is to set us against each other and cause us to despair and stop loving one another and stop having harmony and stop trusting God. Because, you guys, I noticed that to people like myself who are not married, the voices out there scream and yell and say, oh, you're washed up. No one will want you now. You should just give up hope. You just prioritized career and oh, you know the stuff they say, and you'll never be able to conceive children now. And what man would want you anyway, because now you're ugly and you've gone to seed. But then I notice what they're saying to you guys who got married is they're like, oh, you didn't build anything special. You just rushed off there and got married, and you didn't look around and see what your options were, and now you're just raising children, and how's that contributing to society? Like, hello, you're raising souls. It's unbelievably special what you're doing, but well, I shouldn't say more than that. But I will say this, you guys, in addition to that, because I feel like there are religious voices that do say what you're doing is important, and they should, because what you are doing is very important. But in addition to that, which I'm not hearing religious voices saying, and I think maybe because they are a bit confused as to all these single people and why it's going on, and I'm confused myself. But I know that I love the Lord, and I know I'm seeking after him, so I know it's a bit more complex than people just don't care about finding someone to marry anymore. I just wanted to tell you guys, thank you so much. Thank you, because, oh, I just lost my hearing. I'm just so grateful to you because, like I say, I know that the fact the Bible is very pro-marriage and, like, there's all this stuff, that should be enough to give me hope that God will never give up on humanity and all those promises he's made. And I wish I was more spiritual, and I wish I was stronger, and I wish all I needed was the Bible. But guys, sometimes I need a little bit of evidence in the physical world. And to those of you who got married young and are currently raising children, thank you from the depths of my heart, because the world may say that you're missing the boat and you're missing out on such interesting opportunities. And the religious people kind of boil it down to, oh, you're producing children, you have marriage, and that's great. But something else that I can tell you, because of where I'm standing in life, from my own personal experience, is you are hope, and you are evidence that God is not done with the earth, and you're like you're like the first buds of spring after a very hard, long winter. And I noticed the flowers in my garden, they don't all come up at the same time. So to those of you who blossomed early and are raising beautiful families, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You are doing more than just raising your children, and you are doing more than just existing in a marriage. You are actually hope for the rest of us, that God still has a plan for humanity. And like I say, I wish I was so holy that all I needed was the Bible, but you guys, sometimes I'm very weak. And when I see you celebrating your wedding anniversaries, and I see your pictures of your children's birthdays, and oh guys, it's just like, it's like flowers after a hard winter. So thank you from the depths of my heart, and it means a lot to me. And I just wanted to point out to you guys, like, I don't think anyone's telling you how important you are as a sign and a wonder and a promise in a strange and difficult time, that God is not done with humanity. So yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I wanted to say thank you very, very much. All that being said, I came across a voice on the internet. I think maybe, like, why do I go on the internet? I'm starting to ask that now daily. Why do I go on the internet? Probably so I can talk about it. So I found a voice on the internet the other day, and this voice reckoned that everyone needed to get married before 25. It's the everyone I have issue with. Like, if you find your special person before 25, marry your special person. This is like my parents did, and they have a beautiful marriage. But yeah, so this chap, and he reckoned that everyone needs to be married by 25. And then, guys, this is really funny. And this is funny for anyone, right? It doesn't matter if you're single or you're married. If you know your Bible, and even if you don't, I'm going to show you how funny it is. Like, I think he was even a really nice dude, but I was like, come on, guy. Come on, dude. You know, this is very funny. He said that basically the reason everyone needs to get married by 25 is that marriage is a character refining fire. By the way, just in case by some miracle I do eventually end up with a boyfriend, if we get married, I'm going to say this now because once I meet you I'll probably be like all polite, so I'll say this now while you are not in my life. If we get married and you go on a podcast and tell the world that I am a character refining furnace, I do not think you will find me to be entirely ladylike, okay? I think that's the kind of thing, like, I try and be sweet, and I try and be docile, and I try and be like warm and friendly and easygoing, but I have to tell you that I am of very Scottish extraction. And if you tell me, if you go around telling the world that I am a character refining furnace, I do not think I would like that. So, yeah, that's my message to whoever if there is, and there might not be. But yeah, I felt like this was the perfect opportunity to put it out there. Anyway, so he's like, yes, everyone should be married by 25 because this is the character furnace that I'm making. I mean, it's not a perfect quote, and I don't want to quote him perfectly anyway because I don't want you to know who it is because yeah, I don't want to fight with people, you guys. I want to fight with ideas. Anyway, the idea was like, everyone should be married by 25 because then they can be in this character refining furnace. And then, okay, fine, I'm not married. I mean, you know, I would have, looking at my parents' marriage, I would have said that marriage is more about companionship and friendship, and oh my goodness, those two are so cute. That's the other reason I reckon I'm not married. Like, my parents ruined me for marriage because I'm like, if I can't have a marriage like my parents' marriage, I am not interested. So maybe my standards are too high because if I can't have a marriage like Ian and Wendy Hamilton, not interested. Because like the other day, Dad came home early from work, and then I wanted Mum for something and I just looked over the balcony and I saw Dad's truck was gone. And I was like, well, it's no good looking for Mum because there's no way that Dad's gone to Bunnings or, which is like our Home Depot, by the way, in Australia. There's no way, or the garden centre. He will not have gone without his little buddy. Those two are like synchronized swans. You know, the swans that they mate for life and they're like synchronized and they do everything together when they can. Those are my parents. So I was like, it's no good even looking for Mum. If Dad's home early and then the ute gone, Mum's in the ute, keeping him company. So yeah. How do we get onto this? I know. So like, that's my view of marriage, but yeah, okay, fine. So according to this gentleman on the internet, it is a character refining furnace. Okay. And he was, okay, fine, like I say, not qualified to actually know because I've never been inside a marriage, although I have lived under a very nice one. But anyway, okay, I will admit that on this subject, he has a lot more life experience than me. So I wouldn't be here. Oh, I've lost my earring again. And I've lost the back of it. And oh, I want that. I like that thing. Sorry guys, I'm really vapid and vain. I'm going to have to actually stop the video and find it because even though these are just cheap, they're kind of flapper style and I'm really into them. And also I'm learning to dance the Charleston. Well, I'm trying to. And I was doing it the other day and it looks very bad. And then I heard this snigger and what do you think? I turned around and there was Dad filming it and I was so mad. But anyway, I'm going to pause the video because if I can't find the back of this earring, I'm actually going to fret about it. I know it's very terrible to stop a podcast about the Bible to look for the back of an earring, but I like that earring because look, you guys, it dangles. It dangles. Okay, I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I've just taken both of them off because they were a distraction when they kept falling off. And I did find the back of it in case you're interested. I know the ladies out there will be interested because you will recognise how very important that is. Anyway, yeah, so this dude was going on about how wonderful the refining furnace of marriage was. And how if we don't get married by 25, how are we going to get into a character refining furnace? So, you know, I know a lot of my friends out there, you are artists, you are creative types, you struggle with anxiety, and if not anxiety proper, like with a medical diagnosis, you are still inclined to, if you don't actually own a property in the neighbourhood of anxiety, you're an occasional renter, as am I. So there you go. Another thing for you to worry about. You might not get to face any character refining, any fiery furnaces that refine character if you don't get married. Except you guys, this is where it gets funny. So, the main reason I'm making this video, apart from the fact it's just so funny and it really appeals to my sense of humour, is it gives me an opportunity to open the book to one of my most favourite books in the Bible, the book of Daniel, which I love, and I don't think it gets read nearly enough. I'm actually kind of surprised by how many people know there's a book of Daniel. among the Bible readers of the world, and they don't read the book of Daniel. And I'm like, why not? It's seriously cool. It is full of dreams and visions and supernatural stuff and palace intrigue. And honestly, do yourself a favor. If you're not reading it, you do you. But in my opinion, you're missing out on some jolly good stories. Anyway, we must go to the book of Daniel to refute this idea that if you don't get married by 25, you will never find yourself thrown into a fiery furnace of character development. I cannot believe the dude actually went there, but you guys, he did go there, and it's such a cheap shot. And I'm just going to have to take it. So here we are. Okay, so the way this works, right, is that, you know how I told you in previous podcasts, or maybe you don't know, and I certainly don't expect you to listen to everything I put out. I mean, I'm a yapper, and you have busy, important lives. But as I have said in previous episodes, everything about this book begins with the lens of the law, and you will never understand the book if you don't read the law. And it's really important because with the book of Daniel, what's happened is Israel, the nation of Israel, has been taken into captivity by the Babylonian Empire. Now, the reason that happened was that, so the way my Bible's organized, I know different Bibles are organized in different ways, but the way my Bible's organized, Daniel's in the prophets. And this comes, that's quite important because the prophets, their job was to tell Israel, you know, you need to return to God. You're breaking the law. You're breaking the law. You're breaking the law. If you break the law, bad things are going to happen. And, we're now with Daniel, and bad things have happened. People didn't repent, and the whole, a remnant was left. A remnant, that's the thing with the Bible and history, a remnant is always left in Israel. So even when the Jews lose their land, there will always be a few Jews left in it. That's like a theme of the Bible, and frankly, it's a theme of history. But we're in Daniel, and we are following the story of the ones who have been taken into captivity in the book of Daniel. And, so when I get into Daniel, guys, I could just go on Daniel. I love Daniel. Daniel just makes me want to turn off the camera and just make myself a nice cup of cocoa and just read Daniel for the sheer pleasure. So I'm going to try and control myself and just read the bits that I need to read to let you in on the joke of how hilarious it is that if you don't get married by 25, shock horror, you'll never be thrown into a fiery furnace of character development. So we're in the book of Daniel, chapter 1. Oh, and I might have to break in a few times while I'm reading it to just point out some things, but oh well. Okay, so here we go. And I should make bingo cards, and we should see how many names I can't pronounce. That would be fun, wouldn't it? Daniel, chapter 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, along with some of the vessels of the house of the Lord, and he brought them to the land of Shinar, to the house of his God, and he brought the vessels into the treasury of his God. Ugh. Then the king ordered Ashpenaz, the chief of his officials, to bring in some of the sons of Israel, including some of the royal family of the nobles, youths in whom was no defect, who were good-looking, showing intelligence in every branch of wisdom, endowed with understanding and discerning knowledge, and who had the ability for serving in the king's court. And he ordered them to teach them the literature and the language of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed for them a daily ration from the king's choice food and from the wine which he drank, and appointed that they should be educated 3 years, at the end of which they were to enter the king's personal service. Now among them from the sons of Judah were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. I think I'm doing pretty well today. I think I'm doing pretty well. I mean, compared to other days, everything is relative. Well, no, that's not true. I don't believe that. Pronunciation is definitely relative in the world of Ruth. I am doing quite well today. Then the commander of the officials assigned new names to them. And to Daniel he assigned the name Belteshazzar, to Hananiah Shadrach, to Mishael Meshach, and to Azariah Abednego. But Daniel made up his mind that he would not defile himself with the king's food or with the wine which he drank. So he sought permission from the commander of the officials that he might not defile himself. Now God granted Daniel favor and compassion in the sight of the commander of the officers. And to the commander of the officers said to Daniel, I am afraid of my lord the king, who has appointed your food and your drink. For why should he see your faces looking more haggard than the youths who are of your own age? Then you should make me forfeit my head to the king. But Daniel said to the overseer, who the commander of the officials had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, please test your servants for 10 days, and let us be given some vegetables to eat with water to drink. Then let our appearance be observed in your presence, and the appearance of the youths who are eating the king's choice food, and deal with your servants according to what you see. So he listened to them in this matter and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, their appearance seemed better, and they were fatter than all the youths who had been eating the king's choice food. So the overseer continued to withhold their choice food and wine, and they were to drink and kept giving them, and the wine they were to drink, and kept giving them vegetables. As for these 4 youths, God gave them knowledge and intelligence in every branch of literature and wisdom. Daniel even understood all kinds of visions and dreams. See, this is a very exciting book. If you are a Bible reader and you're not really reading Daniel, again, really not sure why, you are missing out on an epic. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your life, except to say, if you like jolly good stories, you're missing out if you don't read Daniel. Daniel even understood all kinds of visions and dreams. Then at the end of the days which the king had specified for presenting them, the commander of the officials presented them before Nebuchadnezzar. And the king talked with them, and out of them all was not one found like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they entered the king's personal service. And as for every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king consulted them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and conjurers who were in his realm. And Daniel continued until the first year of Cyrus the king. Okay, so you guys, I'm actually reading from the New American Standard Version of the Bible. This is not my favorite version for studying and reading for my own personal enjoyment. My favorite is actually the King James Version, which was, written in a very similar time period to the works of Shakespeare. Different monarch, but a very, very, very similar time. Queen Elizabeth I was a monarch who reigned over the time of Shakespeare, and then of course King James, I can't remember what his number was because he was imported from Scotland and his number in Scotland was different from his number in England, so we'll just call him King James. It muddles me because he was the King of Scotland and then he was the King of England, and that was kind of the amalgamation of the 2 thrones. Anyway, the point is that the King James Version is my favourite version, but I am going to struggle reading it so much aloud. So I'm using the New American Standard. Now, why I bring this up, I'm really personally not into the whole debate over what version of the Bible you should read. My dad would say, read the version you want to read. But I do think it's important to point out to you that the King James Version, where it says, so it says in here, where it says in this version of the Bible, the king ordered Ashpenaz, the chief of his officials, to bring some of the sons of Israel. In the King James, that is actually translated, then the king ordered Ashpenaz, the chief of his eunuchs. And there is a line of thinking out there. I'm sorry to sort of bring this up because it is confronting, but sometimes the Bible can be confronting. And we know the Babylonians did do this historically. There is a line of thinking that these men were actually castrated and they were eunuchs because they were put into the care of someone who was chief of the king's eunuchs. It's not explicit, but there is some evidence. And I wouldn't bring this up, except we are dealing with the question of, if you don't get married, can you be thrown into a fiery furnace of character refinement? So I'm just pointing this out, that these men may have actually gone through an incredibly traumatic experience. And what we do know for sure is that the stories in the book of Daniel, the way they unfold around these four main characters, it's certainly not within the traditional family unit. They do seem to be primarily centered within a very political realm, very political, very material realm, where they're behaving in a very spiritual manner. I love the juxtaposition of spiritual insight against raw political power. It is incredibly interesting. It'd be up there with the book of Esther for that, only it's different because the book of Esther doesn't actually get too spiritual, but the book of Daniel gets super spiritual, and I love it. So that's what I'm saying, you guys. It is possible that these four men were eunuchs. Okay, so I just want to put that out there. That is kind of important. Now, regarding this stuff on, but Daniel made up his mind that he would not defile himself with the king's food or with the wine which he drank. So he sought permission from the commander of the officials that he should not defile himself. As I say, whenever I talk about the Bible, you guys, if you don't understand the law, you'll never understand the book. So what's going on here is these men are Jewish, obviously, and if we go back to Leviticus 11, when God gives the law to the Jewish people, he gave them a lot of dietary commandments, a lot of laws. And you guys, honestly, I'm not really in the mood to go through all the dietary laws because there are a lot. I heard the other day, some people think kosher is just about having a rabbi come and bless the food. And when I heard that, I laughed like a drain because I'm not Jewish, but I know my Bible. And I know these dietary laws, you guys, they go on and on and on and on and on. I am not going to read all of them to you. Because we would be here for a very long time. But I shall read some of them just so you get a feel for it. So, then the Lord spoke again to Moses and Aaron, saying to them, speak to the sons of Israel, saying, these are the animals which you may eat from all the animals that are on earth. Whatever divides a hoof, thus making it split hoofs, and chews the cud among the animals, you may eat. Nevertheless, you are not to eat of these among those who chew the cud, or among those who divide the hoof. The camel, for though it chews the cud, it does not divide the hoof. It is unclean for you. Likewise, the rock badger, though it chews the cud, it does not divide the hoof. It is unclean for you. The rabbit also, for though it chews the cud, it does not divide the hoof. It is unclean for you. And the pig, for though it divides the hoof, thus the hoof is split, it does not chew the cud, it is unclean for you. You shall not eat their flesh, nor touch their carcasses. They are unclean to you. These you may eat whatever is in the water, all that have fins and scales. Those in the water and in the seas or the rivers you may eat. But whatever is in the seas and the rivers and do not have fins and scales, among the teeming life of the water and among the living creatures that are in the water, they are detestable things for you, and they shall be abhorrent to you. You may not eat of their flesh, and their carcasses you shall detest. Whatever is in the water that does not have skins or scales is abhorrent to you. You get the gist. I'm not going to keep going on and on and on. Oh, by the way, I do think I should clarify, because I don't know who's listening to this, that I don't feel obligated to live by these laws just because they're in the Bible, because there's like this whole reason that non-Jews aren't required to live by these laws, because they're not for us. But I will tell you that there's something going on, because practically speaking, my personal body, I kind of have to live by these laws, otherwise I get sick, so I don't get it. But yeah, so I don't want to add confusion out there. I'm just saying these are for the Jewish people. The rest of us are not obligated to live by them, but we do need to understand them if we're going to... Oh, good heavens, where's Daniel? I haven't lost Daniel. We do need to know those laws if we're going to understand the book, even if we're not obligated to live by them. Although some quirk of allergy combinations means that I personally do tend to live by them. But anyway, that's just me. Don't want to add confusion, but we do need to know what's in the Jewish law if we want to understand the rest of the book, because when it says here that Daniel made up his mind he would not defile himself with the king's food or with the wine which he drank, this is referring to the laws of kosher. This is referring to the fact that there were certain foods that God said to the Jewish people, you are my special people and you will not be eating these foods. So when Daniel's like, nah, we're not, Daniel leads his friends and they're like, no, we're not going there. What he's actually saying is we are not eating the food that God has told us we can't eat, even though it comes from the king's table. And as you see in the story, that was actually really brave. So again, gotta read the law if you want to understand the book. So I read that start of Daniel to give you a sense of who we're dealing with. These men obviously have incredible integrity. I also wanted to point out that these stories do not happen within the context of, these men are certainly not presented to us in the text as married. And there is even probably a very good reason for that. But the story that I'm really getting to, and some of you must know I've been working my way around to this because you guys, it's just too good. It's just too juicy a comeback to this whole, oh, you can't get into a character refining furnace if you don't get married by 25, is of course Nebuchadnezzar and the golden statue. And honestly, if you don't know this story, you should, because it's a very good story. Now, Daniel doesn't actually appear in this story. I don't know why. But his three friends do. And sit back and enjoy it, because this is really one of my most favoritist stories in the Bible. King Nebuchadnezzar, the king, made an image of gold, the height of which was 60 cubits and its width 6 cubits. He set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent word to assemble the satraps and prefects and governors and counselors and treasurers, the judges and the magistrates and all the rulers of the provinces, to come to the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Then the satraps and the prefects and the governors and the counselors and the treasurers and the judges and the magistrates and all the rulers of the provinces were assembled for the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then the herald loudly proclaimed, "To you the command is given, O peoples, nations, and men of every language, that at the moment you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the lyre, the trigon, the word I cannot say, bagpipe." I have questions on that translation. I do. I really do. "And all kinds of music, you are to fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king has set up. But whoever does not fall down and worship shall immediately be cast into the midst of a furnace of blazing fire." Therefore, at that time, when all the people heard the sound of the horn, the flute, the lyre, the trigon, this word I cannot say, bagpipe, I bet it wasn't a Scottish one, and all kinds of music, bagpipes are very special to me, as I said, of very Scottish extraction. And all kinds of music, I'm sure it was a bagpipe or something, but I bet it wasn't tartan. Anyway, sorry, need to focus. Every language fell down and worshipped the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Okay, so now you guys, we must return to the Jewish law to understand this next bit. Now, when it comes to this, oh my goodness, I had so many options here, you guys. So many options. I mean, I could just sit here and read you screeds and screeds and screeds on the subject of idol worship, but I thought we'd go really original. So, we've got the 10 Commandments. Then God spoke all these words, saying, "I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol or any likeness in the heaven, any likeness of what is in heaven above or on the earth beneath it or in the water under the earth. You shall not worship them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children onto the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing loving kindness to 1,000 to those who love me and keep my commandments. Right. I do like the 10 Commandments. Anyway, there you go. We now know that this business of bow down and worship this beastly idol is going to be a problem for Jewish men who were so righteous they weren't even going to eat the king's food. Because I can assure you that this idol worshipping stuff gets you into a lot more trouble with God than the food eating stuff, so much so that even though I am not obligated to keep Jewish dietary laws, I jolly well commanded to keep that no idol law. So this one's a very big law. So we'll see what happens, right? For this reason, at that time, certain Chaldeans came forward and brought charges against the Jews. Oh, yes, here we go. They responded and said to Nebuchadnezzar the king, O king, live forever. You yourself, O king, have made a decree that every man who hears the sound of the horn, flute, lyre, trigon, word I cannot say, bagpipe, and all kinds of music, is to fall down and worship the golden image. But whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast into the midst of a furnace of blazing fire. There are certain Jews whom you have appointed over the administration of the province of Babylon, mainly Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I'm getting jealousy, you guys. That's just my little personal aside. I'm getting jealousy. I think they're more worried about the elevation of these Jews and the fact that this statue is not getting worshipped. But that's not in the text. That's just a Ruthie thought. Let's return to these dreadful people, shall we? These men, O king, have disregarded you. They do not serve your gods or worship the golden image which you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in a rage and anger, gave orders to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then these men were brought before the king, and Nebuchadnezzar responded to them and said, Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you will not serve my gods or worship the golden image I have set up? Now, if you are ready, at the moment you hear the sound of the horn, flute, lyre, trigon, word I cannot say, and bagpipe, and all kinds of music, to fall down and worship the image that I have made, very well. But if you will not worship, you will immediately be cast into the midst of a furnace of a blazing fire. And what God is there that can deliver you out of my hand? It seems to be a bit of a theme with these kings, doesn't it? Like, they're like, do what you're told, because there is not a God on earth that can save you from my hand. A little bit of a theme. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, Oh, I like this, you guys. I just love this bit of the Bible. Oh, I love it. Gives me chills. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, Oh, Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to give you an answer concerning this matter. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the blazing fire, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But even if he does not, let it be known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar was filled with wrath, and his facial expression was altered towards Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He answered by giving orders to heat the furnace 7 times more than it was usually heated, and he commanded certain valiant warriors who were in his army to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in order to cast them into the furnace of the blazing fire. Then these men were tied up in their trousers, their coats, and their caps, and all their other clothes, and were cast into the midst of the furnace of blazing fire. For this reason, because the king's command was urgent, and the furnace had been made extremely hot, the flame of the fire slew those men who carried up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Just a little aside here. if you get a choice to support a king like Nebuchadnezzar, to throw certain people into the fires, defy the king, because these guys who were like, yep, we'll tie those Jews up and throw them in the furnace for you, they ended up dead, and they ended up dead pretty quick. So that's my personal belief. Like, yeah, sometimes that which looks like the safe option is the quickest way to your own demise, and that's something I deeply believe. But these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell into the midst of the furnace of blazing fire, still tied up. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astounded and stood up in haste, and he responded and said to his high officials, "Was it not 3 men we cast bound into the midst of the fire?" They answered and said to the king, "Certainly, O king." He answered and said, "Look, I see 4 men loosed and walking about in the midst of the fire without harm, and the appearance of the 4th is like the son of the gods." Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the door of the furnace of blazing fire, and he responded and said, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, come out, you servants of the Most High God, and come here." And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the midst of the fire, and the satraps, and the prefects, and the governors, and the king's high officials gathered around, and saw in regard to these men that the fire had no effect on the bodies of these men, nor was the hair of their heads singed, nor were their trousers damaged, nor had even the smell of fire come upon them. Nebuchadnezzar responded and said, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants who put their trust in him, violating the king's command and yielding up their bodies so as not to serve or worship any god except their own God. Therefore, I make a decree that any people, nation, or tongue that speaks anything offensive against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be torn limb from limb, and their houses shall be reduced to a rubbish heap, inasmuch as there is no other God who is able to deliver in this way." Then the king caused Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to prosper in the province of Babylon. You guys, my friends, married with children, married without children, young, old, unmarried. There are 3 things we know we're going to get in life: death, taxes, and if we walk with God, trials that test the soul. It is ridiculous to say that you need to be married to find yourself facing a fiery trial that will refine the soul. All you need to do is prioritize the will of God in your life, and something will challenge you. And hopefully it will not be as extreme as an actual fiery furnace, but we call it fiery trials for a reason. Because when you're going through something and all this pressure is coming from all these different directions, it feels like a fire. And sometimes it feels like a flood too. And that is why it says in the Bible, in another beautiful book that I just adore, in the book of Isaiah 43. "But now, says the Lord, your creator, O Jacob, he who formed you, O Israel, do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name, and you are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And through the rivers, they will not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be scorched, nor will the flame burn you. For I am the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, your Saviour. I have given Egypt as your ransom, Cush and Seba in your place, since you are precious in my sight, since you are honoured and I love you. I will give other men in your place and other people in exchange for your life. Do not fear, for I am with you. I will bring your offspring from the east and gather you from the west. I will say to the north, give them up, and to the south, do not hold them back. Bring my sons from afar and my daughters from the ends of the earth. Everyone who is called by my name, who I have created for my glory, and whom I have formed, even whom I have made." You guys, there will always be a trial. There will always be a test. These tests start early And they continue all the way up to God calling us home. And it doesn't matter if he calls us home in our 30s or past our 100th birthday. These trials continue. These flames continue. But he is with us. And I cannot finish a podcast on these men who possibly weren't even able to have children because of the brutality of the regime they found themselves serving. I cannot finish a story about those men without reading you this portion from Isaiah. And regardless of what you are facing in life, regardless of what stage of life you're at, I hope this is of comfort to you, because we all struggle with things that we don't feel like we're good enough, and we feel like we're not producing enough, and it might be children, or it might be money, or it might be influence in the world. We're all in this together. We've all got things that scare us. So I want to read to you now from Isaiah 56, because I find it so comforting. And I read it out of respect for Daniel, for Meshach, for Daniel and Meshach, and I can't even remember their names, you guys. Those four men who lived in very hard times and almost certainly were not married and almost certainly did not leave children. But they leave a legacy of faith that echoes down through the ages and strengthens us today. Those of us who have no children can rely on their faith, and those of us who have children can teach our children of their faith. Such was their devotion to God and his laws. And I want to finish with this piece of Isaiah 56. Thus says the Lord, preserve justice and do righteousness, for my salvation is about to come, and my righteousness to be revealed. How blessed is the man who does this, and the son of man who takes hold of it, who keeps from profaning the Sabbath, and keeps his hand from doing evil. Let not the foreigner who has joined himself to the Lord say, the Lord will surely separate me from his people. Neither let the eunuch say, behold, I am a dry tree. For thus says the Lord to the eunuch who keep my Sabbaths, and choose what pleases me, and hold fast my covenant. To them I will give in my house and within my walls a memorial, and a name better than that of sons and daughters. I will give them an everlasting name that will not be cut off. Also to the foreigners who join themselves to the Lord, to minister to him, and to love the name of the Lord, to be his servants, every one who keeps from profaning the Sabbath and holds fast my covenant. Even those I will bring to my holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices shall be acceptable on my altar, for my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples. The Lord God, who gathers the dispersed of Israel, declares, yet others I will gather to them, to those already gathered. All you beasts of the field, all you beasts in the forest, come to eat. His watchmen are blind, let them all know nothing. All of them are dumb dogs, unable to bark. Dreamers lying down who love to slumber, and dogs are greedy, they are not satisfied. And they are shepherds who have no understanding. They've all turned to their own way, each to his unjust gain, to the last one. Come, they say, let us get wine, and let us drink heavily of strong drink, and tomorrow it will be like today, only more so. It's interesting, isn't it? That God's promise is juxtaposed against that passage of scripture about evil watchmen and people who have no understanding, and people who think that every day will be the same, and they go rocking on confident in their wickedness. But we know that God is our strength and God is our hope, and it doesn't matter what we're facing in life. The God of this book, the God of the Bible, the real God, you guys, not the packaged product not the packaged product that people use for political gain and getting big donations and personal aggrandizement. The real God, the God we find when we open this book for ourselves, the God who says it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what you lack, it doesn't matter what people have done to you. You are mine. I want you. I have a plan for your life. That God, He is the God of our hope. He is the God of our salvation. And He is the God that gives us strength and He gives us courage regardless of the trials we are facing. It is not true that if you do not marry by 25, you won't face a fiery furnace of character refinement. But it is true that when you do inevitably face the floods and fires of life which come, the God of this book, the real God, not the fake God that they're peddling out there, the real God, He will be with you and He will get you through it. And even if you end up having no children, He can give you something so much better than the legacy that the world understands. So I say this, those of us who are unmarried without children, may we be like Daniel. And those of us who have children, may we teach them to be like Daniel. Because the days are dark, but our God is light. And I hope this has been of some comfort to you. And most of all, I hope you open the book for yourself. Because just like we can't tune a fiddle without a scroll, we need the Bible to tune the soul. Thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.